Hello, and welcome to another Cabin Fever edition of the Inch from Insanity show. Today we'll be talking about the Black Lives Matter movement in relation to the recent protests that have rocked the nation and are, of course, on everyone's mind. Because I'm sure everyone wants to know what I think, because what everyone's really asking for is yet another white man to give his opinion on the situation. Ha 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 ha. And that was my attempt to inject humor into this very dire, very serious situation. So where to begin? Well, maybe the incident itself in relation to all the other incidents that have been made this into the powder keg spark that it was. There is no justification for what they did to this man or any of these people. I mean, are people really that surprised? But let's focus on that in and itself. Even from a fear, if like this guy was in fear for his life, the cop, maybe I could give him some way like, oh, he came at me. Oh, this guy's a known criminal. Nope, that's not what happened. And even if he was, I understand that if someone's really trying to hurt you, you have to do it. I have sympathy for someone trying to subdue someone because you can't be like, hey, buddy, calm down. But if he's trying, but he wasn't doing that. But pragmatically, even if he was, there is no reason to hold your knee on someone's neck for that span of time. Once he's down, handcuff him, put him in the car. There's no other reason to continue it. Unless you're trying to, what's that word I'm looking for? Kill him! But, okay, so what about the protest? Now, I don't agree with the violence. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal to smash corporations, to tell you the truth. Burning down a police station, can you really be that surprised? I don't... But, again, it's weird. I don't agree with it, but I understand and, in a way, maybe not respect, but sympathize. Because you can condemn the violence, but you're insulting people's intelligence by saying, oh, well, there's no reason for it. It's like, there's a lot of reasons for it. This has been building and building and building even before recent events have made it even worse of the last few years. I mean, people are like, oh, you should do a peaceful protest. They did that. They were condemned just for that. So, is it that surprising they kept going? And I get, I'm trying to think of the right metaphor of this. Of course. There's actually, I think, something that speaks to me on a personal level that I think is the perfect metaphor, if that's the right word for it. I am hyperactive. I have ADHD. I know you're all shocked. But one of the most annoying things about being hyperactive, having that kind of brain that, just won't stop, is that, and now I don't have to face this as much as I did when I was a kid, but still kind of do, especially people who know me, is people, even if they don't fully realize it, are waiting for you to snap at any situation. It's like they don't even realize they're doing it, but it's like they're hoping for it. Like, I've seen it happen with myself and other hyperactive. I saw it happen with a hyperactive kid once. I actually stepped in to defend him to his mother because someone was. So let me tell you the situation. What I mean. When you're hyperactive, your brain is going a million miles a minute. It's just how it is. You can tell right now when I'm talking about a subject that I really care about. When you're hyperactive, like people, like little things, people just poke you. It's just like, hey. It's like just someone doing this right in the back of your neck, But they'll either emotionally or physically, they'll just little by little they'll chip at you. So finally you stop. You're like, get the away from me! And people don't see the build, they just see the step. And so that person's like, oh, see, they can't handle themselves. And this is like that. People have tried peaceful. They've tried that. I mean, they're just building. And when they finally snap, like, whoa, where's all this violence coming from? Really? And I think a big part of it, why it got so violent, is that people are cooped up at home. There's so much bad going on with Corona. This is something they felt like they control. This is something they could do. It might not work, but that's all you feel like you are doing. So, I mean, don't act like it's completely, that they are completely unreasonable to do this. I mean, yeah. And what about the protests themselves? Now, I don't want to sound like conspiracy theorists, but it does happen that some people go to protests just for the violence. Some people, and certain people might plant agitators. I believe that happens. The problem is proving that. That is a hard thing to prove because usually that's done by proxies. I know people, I'm not even, that have been hired because they were so desperate from, not in this current situation, but in the past. They were hired to agitate when people knew a protest was coming. It does happen. It's sad, but it happens. So what about, now I do want to do a whole video just on my opinion on relations, but I want to keep this about the current situation, but I'll still have snippets from my other opinions. So why don't we talk about Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter. If you have ever used the word All Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter, you're ignorant and stupid. And you'll probably say, wait a minute, is it bad to say all lives matter? Is it bad to support the police? No, it's not bad to do either of those things. But it's not a debate. Like, no one is saying, well, all lives matter. Well, I think these people should be killed. That's not unless, of course, you're psycho. No one is arguing for the mass. The only people who would argue against all lives matter are people who want people to die. So obviously, psychopaths. In other words, not a debatable topic. We know all lives matter. You don't need to be reminded of it. Black Lives Matter, you do need to be reminded of it for reasons I will get into. What about Blue Lives Matter? Now, I don't hate cops. I hate bad cops. But cops who fail to act, and although, let's play devil's advocate there, a lot of them are afraid to act because, as the story goes, if they speak out against the bad cops, next time they actually need help, it might not come. It's a tough thing, but at the same time, to say Blue Lives Matter, like the class people say stuff like, oh, well, you can stop being a cop. Yeah, you can take off your uniform. You can quit the police force. You can't quit being black. And the other thing about Blue Lives Matter, yes, it's a risky job being a cop, but I think movies have really tainted what people think it's actually like. There are risks, and you could die, but those risks are not every second of every day, and shootouts are actually incredibly rare. That doesn't happen in it's not the Wild West. It's not one honest man with a gun cleaning up the town. No, that's not what it is. And you can take off the uniform. Let's say I've been hassled by cops being pulled over for various traffic citations. So when I get pulled over for a cop, I'm like, oh God, well, I'm going to get a ticket. I have never once ever thought when a cop pulled me over, I'm going to die. Never once happened. And I like the good and bad points people are making online. But I feel the need to stress this. We have to, it's a tough thing, but you have to remember, Facebook is not news. It is true you could spread truth and this is what the cops are really doing, but how can you trust any post on Facebook? If I really want to, I could go online right now and make a fake profile, make a fake news story. If I really wanted to, it's not that hard, sadly. It's really not. That's why I don't share news. I'll share joke memes or political opinions, but I don't share news stories unless I know they're real. And if it's from a website or someone else's profile, it might not be. It could be, but it might not be. What's another thing people bring up? Dr. King, of course. Now, yes, he believed in peaceful protest. Just look at the Selma march. People wanted to fight back, but he said, no, you can't, because we have to be peaceful. People will be on our side. And he was right. But here's another opinion people bring up. Dr. King was for nonviolent resistance, and they shot him. Now, people might say, well, even no, he would still believe in his cause, and that's true. But here's another little thing you got to remember. Dr. King never had to be here today. Imagine if you showed Dr. King, the Republican, what happened with the Republican Party, Trump, and all this stuff. Even, I'm not saying he would immediately be for fighting, but he might be like, that probably the first time I ever heard a man like Dr. King say, yikes. And I'm against, again, you want to loot some corporation, I don't care, but I think those people are just there for the violence. We shouldn't condemn the peaceful protests for those people. Because think of it, those of you that are, so what you're saying is, we shouldn't condemn an entire group of people for the violent actions of a few. So we shouldn't condemn, that's like, so then you agree about cops too, that we should not let just a few bad cops taint the entire police force. So You can't. But at the same time, the peaceful protesters are saying they're bad. See, that's a bit of a difference. But the thing about police and everything people think is so it blew up. It's just not the same. There's a story my mom tells that, and this is in small town Massachusetts. At one time, the chief of police came to my nonna's house and said, "I'm going to kill all you guineas." Now, whether or not he was serious, who knows? My mom thought he was. She was a little girl at the time. My grandmother had to get her gun and be like, "Come on, I'll bring it." And the police chief says, "You guinea, you can't kill all of us." "No, but I can kill you." And think of it, even if he wasn't intending to do it, this man knew he could go to the Italian neighborhood and hassle people. There's a movie, Jack Reacher. Good movie, go check it out. There's some great there's little anti-cop snippets in it that I really like. But anyways, the movie's about a military sniper who's suspected of going on a mass killing spree. Jack Reacher is an investigator come in to find out the truth. There's a part where he's talking to the man's defense attorney, and he says there are 4 kinds of people that join the military. There are people who, they're patriots, they actually want to protect. It's a family thing, their father's father, their uncles, everyone, the whole family's in the military. 3, it's just a job, just something to do. Then he says there's number 4. The 4th person is people who join the military for a legal excuse to kill people. He's not condemning the whole military thing, he's saying these people exist. And think of it, change military to cops, and it's very similar, isn't it? People join the military because their father was a cop. People join the police force because their dad was a cop, because their uncle was a cop. They join it because they actually want to serve and protect. They join it because it's a paycheck with benefits, whatever. Then there's the 4th kind of person that joins the police force. No matter, as far back, the beginning of human history, as long as there have been people who are meant to have a position of authority, there are going to be people who take advantage of that authority. And as soon as we had civilization, whoever the downtrodden minority is, there is going to be someone who joins the police force to bully them. Whether it be Italians, anyone who have Eastern European descent, Native Americans, and of course, blacks. And the current, and that way the blacks have always been hassled by the cops. It's just how none of us can understand that. I mean, think of it. There are people who join the police force. I'll repeat that because it needs repeating. Just so they can beat up black people. This is a fact. This isn't an opinion. This isn't a conspiracy theory. There are people who join the police force just to beat up black people. I gotta say, I'd be pissed off if that was me. Just like I'd be pissed off if I was Italian before the 60s when that was more prevalent, and it died down as, I would say, after the 60s, around then. But so I can sympathize with that. People go, "Well, you're not black." I don't have to be. I mean, imagine, think of, I'm really trying to get not into my race. I want to make it about this current situation. So, I think I'll try to sum it up right here, because I don't want to go off too much of a tangent. But I think, to sum up, you can condemn the violence, but don't act like they are completely unreasonable to be angry, because it's been going on for centuries. When something's been going on for centuries, come on, and let's, of course, the Cheeto in chief isn't helping. Yeah, right. Not that anyone really, but thankfully for these people that are peacefully protesting, they're doing what they can. And I support you. I wish I could do more than just give my opinion and shout outs, but it's scary. People going out just trying to do what's right and getting hurt for it. And I don't know what's true. If the cops are really doing this, if the protesters are really doing that, I don't know what to believe. So let's stick with what we know is true. People do join the police force to hurt people they don't like. And it won't, until real change happens, the anger is just going to keep building. Like, if someone, I honestly believe, if you heard, "Oh, a man died in police custody, suspicious circumstances. Oh, who was he? Oh, he was some gangbanger, rap sheet a mile long, terrorized community." Even black people be like, "Well," but that's not the story, is it? It's, "Well, a man died in police custody. Oh my God, what did he do? He ran a stop sign." Huh? He cashed a bad check. He sold a Lucy cigarette. He was jogging and walking home, and everyone's like, "Wait, that's it? That's what he did? That's not." I'm not saying it would have been justified if he was a gangbanger. I'm just saying there wouldn't be as much anger because at least it was a bad person. You can say, "Oh, well, he..." Like I always said, I can never be a cop because I'd be beating the crap out of every scumbag I ever met, every bad person. But they're not beating up the bad people; they're beating up random citizens, and there is a racial bias when it comes to this. I mean, like I saw another thing people say is white privilege doesn't mean you don't have you haven't had it rough, because I've had it rough. But what it does mean is there's a certain level of rough you will never have to face, and I do acknowledge that. I haven't had a perfect life, but there are certain things. I mean, yeah, there's a chance I've been beaten up. I've never been mugged, knock on wood, but I might be mugged, but not for the color of my skin. And I can walk to different sections of the neighborhood or different parts of town, and I might get beat up. But there are parts of this country where if I was black, I would not go to on a bet. So what's the answer? Hell if I know. I don't. I'm giving my opinion. I don't know what to do. We got to keep fighting for what's right. We need to keep electing people we believe will help. This is a fight that will never end. The good guys could possibly gain more power someday, but this is a big one. We have to acknowledge hatred and bigotry will always exist, so we have to always keep fighting. You can't just pretend it's not there. That's just foolhardy. So to my to the black people, because I could be offending people with everything. I don't know. I'm just because I don't want to say black brothers and sisters. They're like, you're my fellow man and my fellow humans. Although I don't like calling myself a human. I hope things get better for you. It's not fair how you're being treated. I don't care if it sounds like I'm trying to gain sympathy. I'm saying what I feel. It's not fair. I think regardless of race, sexual orientation, gender, whatever, everyone should get treated fairly. And we can be treated fairly and equally without saying, "Oh, well, I don't see color." No, the world is a vibrant place, different cultures. There's nothing wrong with seeing that. But should be no difference in treatment of these people. I honestly don't know how to wrap this up because I feel like I could just think of new things. But just to all the people fighting for what's right, keep fighting. And to all the bad guys, because you are out there, who just choose hatred just to choose it, just because of who currently is the thing to downtrodden on, who choose racism and bigotry and ignorance, you're pathetic. You are scum because you are choosing. It's you can almost have sympathy for people who grew up like in slavery times, like white people who grew up before the civil rights, and maybe they didn't fully have, but you have no excuse in this day and age. You are choosing ignorance, bigotry, racism. You are choosing to be a villain. Because someone says, "Well, I was raised differently." Fine, you were raised differently, but at a certain point in your life, you have to acknowledge that you are a human being with free will, and you can choose to say, "This is bullshit. I'm not following it anymore." There's things I was raised on I don't believe. I don't agree with. Why? Because I have a brain. I can choose what path I walk. I have to really spell this out for people because they just love to make excuses, acting like racism don't exist. They hide behind. They hate black and brown people, and they try to say, "Oh, it's a way to." They change laws to be racist. See, that's the thing. The racist, when progress happens, they dig in, and they change their faith. Before, they could just join the Klan and beat them up, but now they have to be smart, but they have to hide better. See, I keep trying I'm doing the Italian goodbye. I got 3 or 4 endings. But one more thing. Oh no, I'm Columbo. One more thing. Again, I don't know how to end this. This is one of my longer videos because I can't figure out how to end it. It's just so horrible to watch this. Innocent people getting hurt because they're just trying to be heard, and they're being hijacked by violent people, insurrectionists invading their protests, making things violent. And how hypocritical is this? There were white people with guns who are charging state capitals arguing about rights that aren't even being violated. And did the police tear gas them? No. That's a big difference. No one. I hope we can get through this. It's hard to keep. I have a hard time keeping hope. But I like to think I'm one of the good guys, and as long as I can have a voice, I will speak my opinion. If I can't raise my fist, I will raise my voice. So just be safe out there if you're going out to protest. Be careful. Let people know where you're going, so in case something happens to you, just be safe. Try to survive out there. And if you're in a position to do something of change, do it. The biggest problem, the biggest thing will be people who don't acknowledge it, people who do nothing when something can be done. I could keep talking, but I honestly don't know what else to say. So why don't I just end it with my usual catchphrase. Believe everything, trust nothing.